Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is, in your opinion, what's the number one reason most people never become millionaires? I don't think you can narrow it down to this singular factor because there are multiple factors that have to coalesce to become a millionaire. And most people drop the ball on more than one. And I'm going to actually say my top 10 reasons why people fail to become a millionaire who try, because some people don't even try. Let's just be real. But for the people who actually try, it's a cumulative effect of not taking certain steps or not doing certain actions. And if I say there are 10 things you should do and they do 7, they'll fall short. If I say there are 10 things to do and they do 9, they'll fall short. So I don't want to say it's this one reason, but it's probably a multitude of reasons. And so I made a list of my top 10 reasons that I see, and I've been consulting with people since 2004. So I have a little bit of experience watching people, go through this process of trying to become a millionaire. I think the number one failure is just a lack of financial education. Most of the skills that you learn to become a good employee are non-transferable when it comes to growing wealth, right? You go to school to learn how to make income, right? You get an education that allows you to get a job to make active income. It does not prepare you to grow wealth. It does not train you to seek other means of income. And most people don't even get the basic fundamental understanding of budgeting, of saving, of investing. Like, it is totally non-existent. So most people's parents didn't come up with that information and share it. So we're talking about generations who just lack the financial education that's necessary, not only to make $1 million, but to be able to keep $1 million, because that's a totally different skill set. Making it is one skill set. Keeping it is actually another skill set. So that lack of education is probably the most fundamental, foundational thing that people are lacking. I think the other thing, and it goes along with the way we have been educated, is short-term thinking. If you're talking about growing wealth, you got to play the long game. You've probably heard me say that in other videos. You got to play the long game. Wealth is accumulated based on time in, not timing. Meaning, most of the time when you're growing wealth, it's not about active income where I do a job and I get paid. It's about I get some money, I put it into a vehicle that has compounded growth, and the longer it's there, the more it grows exponentially to a point where I get to be wealthy. And that's about assets, right? And so you have to be thinking in the long term. Most people, when they come to me, they say, I want to be a millionaire. Well, when do you want to be a millionaire? In next year or 2 years or 5 years. And you're not in a position necessarily to do that, right? You'd have to be so aggressive and have so many resources to be able to pull that off. It's super risky and dangerous and hard to keep, right? And so people get turned off when you say, oh, just 20 years, you can easily in 20 years become a millionaire. And people, I don't want to wait 20 years, but 20 years are going to pass whether you do this or not, right? 20 years went by so fast for me, it's amazing. And again, of course, I can't imagine another 20 years, I'll be 77. I'm like, wow, I can't imagine what it'll be like. But if I survive, I will be 77. The time will have passed regardless. So you have to be thinking in the long term. Most people think too short term and they give up because it doesn't happen immediately. I think the next big thing is this fear of loss. People, I don't want to lose any money. Well, there's inherent risk in everything. You could lose your job. That's losing your money. People play the lottery, which you're probably going to lose, right? You're more likely to lose than win. People go to the casino where you're more likely to lose than win. So you're okay with certain types of risk. But if somebody says, do your due diligence, do your research and make an investment, but there is inherent risk in the investment, you might lose. Oh, I don't want to do that. right? And the fear of loss comes from a fear of understanding how it's made. It's not gambling. When you buy a piece of real estate, it's not a gamble. It's a system and a process that allows you to gain equity and collect rent, right? And when you invest in stocks, there is a system for how you choose a particular company and whether or not it shows growth potential. And again, it pays equity in terms of growth and or dividends, right? So there's when you don't understand, which goes back to the number one, which is lack of education, you have these irrational fears that will stop you from even taking a chance and doing the things that are necessary, to grow wealth. For, I think, poor debt use and poor debt management. In order to get wealthy, you must use debt. It's almost impossible to get wealthy without using debt. And what am I talking about? So the difference is we're talking about leveraged debt, meaning if I want to buy $1 million property and I had to save $1 million to buy it, it would take me a long time if I just try to save active income, right? That means I'd have to have in excess of my expenses be able to save $1 million. Whereas if I use leverage, meaning I use debt, so I get a mortgage from the bank, if the bank makes me put 5% down, then I need $50,000, right? So if I have $50,000 and I leverage it, I use debt to acquire it, but I use the rental income that it generates to pay off the debt. That's a good use of debt, right? That's called leverage debt. So ultimately I get $1 million asset because eventually it gets paid off with $50,000 and I get cash flow from the building. So most people will use debt wrong, right? To buy everyday things. You go to the store and buy clothes on a credit card, don't pay it off. So you pay 3-4 times what a pair of pants is worth. When you carry this massive debt that has interest that are far greater than what you could probably get in your investments. And so you always end up upside down. So most people use debt wrong or poorly, and most people manage the debt when they get it poorly because what they use the debt for doesn't cover the cost or service the cost of the debt. I say 5. I would say either inconsistent or totally not investing at all, right? And so I've had a lot of people come to me and say, hey, Haru, can you help me set up a brokerage account? I want to start investing. And I'm like, okay, great. What should I invest in? And, we find a good investment for them. And usually, most people who have very little skills or knowledge, listen, an index fund is an easy way to go. You're going to make money. And they say, okay, help me set it up. And they set up the index fund. And they say, well, how much should I put in? I said, that's up to you, right? And then sometimes they'll start with $500 or $1,000. And they're proud of themselves. And that's a great start. And then I'll see them in a few months and I'll say, well, how's your investment going? They say, it's going great. Do you think I should have put more money in? Well, absolutely. If you just put in $500, look how long it's, and let's say you're getting a good 20% return. How long is it going to take you to make $1 million? It's going to take you forever. You have to consistently put money in. You have to consistently invest. You have to, all that extra money that you have that you're spending on things that end up having no value or consumed, you need to be putting that in your investments. And you need to have a diversified portfolio of investments so that you're making money in every economy, up, down, or stagnant, right? So most people don't invest at all. And most people are inconsistent when they actually do invest. So I think that's a big problem. I think, I kind of alluded to it already, but the next one I think is unrealistic or unmeasurable goals. So again, people say, well, what are your financial goals? I want to make more money next year. Well, how much more? What's more money? Like, how can you create a plan of action if you don't have a very specific target? Right? And it doesn't mean you'll hit the target every time, but at least you'll have a plan that will lead you in that direction. You might go over, you might go under, but at least you can learn even from that. And so people have these unrealistic expectations of what they're capable of doing or what an investment is capable of, what their ability to generate, wealth or equity or income is just totally unrealistic. And most of the time, like I said, unmeasurable because they don't have a specific number, right? They just say, I want to make more money. Or even if they just say, I want to make $1 million. You want to make $1 million when? Right? Let's just be realistic with where you're. Most people are in the negative. You have debt. You're not even at zero. You're in the negative, but you're talking about making $1 million in 2 years and quitting your job. Let's just be realistic sometimes. If we have a realistic plan that doesn't, require you to be doing something 24 hours a day and have all the specialized knowledge, let's be realistic in terms of a time frame and be realistic in terms of actual numbers that you could probably hit annually. I think another big one is relying on active income, right? Entertainers can make $1 million a year. Athletes can make $1 million, and not all. Like I think the rookie salary in the NFL is only $400,000 a year. I mean, I'm saying only, but it's not $1 million. Like people think every athlete is a millionaire, and then a lot of that goes to taxes and the agent and all this other stuff. So, it's just unrealistic to think you're going to have some means of active income, meaning a job that's going to pay you $1 million. Like this is very highly unlikely that that's going to happen. So you have to consider multiple sources or multiple streams of income, right? So you can have active income from a job or being like a sole proprietor, but you should also have multiple streams of passive income, rental income, dividend income, business income. And when I say business income, a business that you own but you don't work in, where money's coming into you, right? So you should have all these streams, interest income, all these different streams of income coming in that don't require your time, right? And that's going to accelerate your ability to make $1 million. I think where are we at? Probably number 8. Self-sabotage is one of the biggest issues. People don't make it. Playing the victim, right? We know there are inherent, intrinsic biases. You can't control the circumstances of your birth. You can't control who you were born to, where you were born. You can't control the environment so much, your early education, your, early social life. You can't control that, right? And to use that as your reason for not progressing forward, you're just self-sabotaging because does it make it maybe more difficult for some people? Yes. Some people have advantages and everybody can claim some type of disadvantage, right? But that doesn't mean there's not a path forward for you. And if, you believe there's no pathway forward for you, you won't move forward. If you believe there's nobility in poverty, then you won't move forward. If you believe that for some reason you don't deserve it, you won't move forward. If you don't believe you are smart enough, you won't move forward, right? And if you don't believe whoever you are can achieve it because maybe you don't see as many people that look like you achieve it, then you won't, right? So self-sabotage is huge. And the internal dialogue you got to have is, listen, I deserve it. I'm capable of getting it, and I'm going to get it, right? So that you got to have some serious good self-talk. Number 9, I think, and this is interesting. Failure to use qualified professional resources. So I get a lot of clients who come to me after they've done things and I say, well, why did you do that? Well, my cousin is a insurance person. They told me I should get this type of insurance. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they didn't tell you what was best for you. They told you what was best for them. Like, what made you think your cousin? Well, I guess because you figured your cousin, they're not going to treat you wrong. And maybe they didn't know they were treating you wrong, but that's bad advice. Just because they're your cousin doesn't mean they're qualified, right? Just because they look like you doesn't mean they're qualified. We got to get away from and trying to get stuff for free. And I keep telling people, listen, somebody is paying this professional that's giving you advice. And whoever's paying them, that's what they're working for. So if you go to a financial planner and you didn't pay them, they're probably getting paid by a fund company who's trying to tell them to push certain mutual funds or things like that. Same thing, if you go into an insurance agent and you're not paying the agent to give you the best insurance, they're getting paid from the insurance company to sell you particular products that give them the highest commissions. So you have to pay for good professional advice, and you have to see it as an investment. First of all, it's a tax write-off. So, if you understood that in your financial education, you would know it's a tax write-off anyway, and it's an investment because getting that professional advice will allow you to navigate better and skip certain pitfalls that other people will ultimately fall into. And finally, number 10, people fail to take decisive action. Once they have all the pieces in place, I'm like, well, why didn't you do it? I don't know, right? They just don't take action, and they'll have all the information and all the pieces in place and set up a brokerage account and, get their credit score up and make all these relationships and just don't do it, right? And I can't explain why, and it could go back to the fear, it could go back to the self-sabotage, it could go back to all, but that lack of decisive action, that one, that's the one, So, but it's a cumulative effect. As you see, all those things are important. And if you skip any one of them, if you skip any two of them, any three of them, you're likely to fail, right? It's hard to become a millionaire by accident. And even if you do it by accident, you're not going to keep that money by accident. So, those are my top 10 instead of the number one. I know you asked for one, but those are my top 10. I'd like to hear your thoughts on why you think people fail to become a millionaire. What has been your struggle? What has been your way to overcome some of your struggles? But please like, share, subscribe, keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.